Hello, everyone, and welcome to AI Agents Hour. I'm Shane, and this is brought to you by Mastra. Today, we're going to be doing a whole bunch of things. We're going to have a few guests come on. We're going to continue building the MCP server we started but didn't quite finish yesterday. So, first of all, if this is the first time you're watching, you're probably watching this on either YouTube or X or LinkedIn. This is live. So, if you are in the chat, please just leave some comments along the way. We'll try to answer questions. We will try to get some audience engagement throughout today. So today we're going to be talking about some AI news briefly. We're going to have a guest from Couchbase. We're going to meet someone from the Mastra team. We're going to have a guest from Perflab that we met last week, but has continued to build what they kind of showcased in the Mastra hackathon last week. And then, as I mentioned before, we're going to build an MCP server. We're going to try to get this thing actually working and see if we can get it fix some of the bugs that we were running into yesterday. So let's start by going through some AI news from, I guess, the last few days. So at the Microsoft Build conference, Azure added xAI's Grok 3, Meta's Llama, and Mistral models, which is great. Cool. Always good to see more model support. But I thought this one was pretty interesting. GitHub's going to integrate Anthropic's coding agent as an optional Copilot backend. I thought that's pretty cool, allowing you to kind of bring your own model or select what model you want to use. There was some research from Carnegie Mellon that found that the top model finished only 24% of this new benchmark on end-to-end enterprise tasks, and the GPT-4o cleared 8.6% of tasks. And I guess that means our jobs are all safe for now. But seriously, I think we all would understand if you've been dealing with these models and you've been building agentic applications, you know that brittle is definitely a way of life. Some of these things, quality is challenging to get out of some of these models, and consistency is sometimes challenging, but it is improving in a lot of ways. And everything that I've seen is if you have more narrowly defined tasks, you can get some really good results. But if you have more broadly defined tasks, your results are going to vary widely. And sometimes it'll be great and sometimes it won't be. And I think that's the reality we live in. And I think we'll be living in for quite a while. So it's not going to necessarily take over everything that, some of the doomers are believing it will. But I do believe that it does enhance a lot of the things we can do and make us much more efficient. So there is a question in the chat from YouTube. Is version 0.10.0 working for you? I hope so. If not, please jump into our Discord. The team has just released 0.10.0. We just published a blog post on it, a bunch of breaking changes. So one of the biggest releases we've had in a while. So please check the Mastra blog if you are interested in seeing more about what went out with that release. But if you are running into problems, please jump into the Mastra Discord. And the next kind of piece of news I did want to talk through is Google DeepMind's Flow, or VO3 is the model, I guess. Has anyone here that's watching this, have you heard this? Have you seen some of the videos that are getting created? Have you tried it out? I realized that you have to have a pretty expensive account to try it out, but I did. I splurged a bit and I've been playing around with it. So I'm going to share just really briefly kind of the introduction blog post because I think it is useful, and then maybe just show some of the stuff I've been playing around with before we get our first guest on. All right, so let me share my screen here. Okay, so this just came out yesterday. Meet Flow AI-powered filmmaking with VO, I think is how you'd pronounce that, VO3. So it's supposed to be an AI filmmaking tool built with creatives for the next wave of storytelling. So this is 1 minute, 45 seconds. I think we should watch this video, and then I'm just going to tell you my thoughts, but curious to know what your thoughts are. So feel free to drop a comment along the way. let's watch this video. If you haven't already, it is pretty cool. So let's take a look. Assuming the video works. And it doesn't seem to be working. Let's, interesting. There we go. Let's try again.
I don't know if I'm on the diet.
And for some reason, it is not working very well. So why don't we just talk about it? What does it allow us to do? It does allow us to essentially create an image, and then they use what's called ingredients. So you can save this image as an ingredient. And then once you do that, it allows you to then use that ingredient or that image in different scenes. So you can see here, there's a couple different images, and you then use those ingredients with a prompt, and then it creates a small video out of those ingredients, which is pretty cool. And then from there, you can add that little scene or add that little, frame or clip to a scene, and then you can kind of edit and extend those frames into, it's more like a AI powered video editor at that point. So it's really pretty powerful. There's a whole bunch of different, things that you can do with it. I've been playing around with it, so I'll show you some of the stuff that I did. I created this little Mastra megaphone, and I wanted a cowboy to be holding this megaphone. I don't really know what I was doing, but I was just playing around with it. And you can see I wanted a cowboy using this megaphone image that I had it generate. And then I wanted it to transition. Didn't really have a very smooth transition, but I wanted it to transition to another character holding the same megaphone. So just being silly, having some fun. You can see like I've been messing around with it, but if I want to add an ingredient, I can see I can add this megaphone that I generated. I can generate a new image. I can then build these ingredients together into these scenes, and then or into these like small clips, put them in the scene, extend it, delete it, do some modifications here. So it's really pretty powerful. I guess you're not able to see my screen as I was showing that, so maybe I should show you the right section here. Hopefully you can see this now. Sorry about that. All right, so let's review. So as you can see, I have this kind of scene here that I built. I was talking through it and no one here could hear me. Sorry about that. But let's see if I was to play this. You can see I have this cowboy that's, riding, holding this megaphone. It transitioned into this really poorly crafted other scene. I would, of course, delete this, but I was just playing around, having fun. And you can see some of the stuff that I've generated. I can then, take these ingredients and turn this into a video by just adding some of these images that I've generated and build that into a pretty complex thing. Yeah. Yep, I was in the wrong tab, Vinicious. Rookie mistake today, but that's okay. We're having fun. We're learning a little bit about AI. Thanks for everyone. If you are just tuning in, we are talking through some of the AI news of the day or of the last couple days. We're talking about Google's Flow. And we're going to bring on our first guest. So I want to introduce Shivay from Couchbase. So Shivay, I'm going to bring you on and let's talk a little bit about some of the things that you've been doing.
Hey Shane, how are you? Thanks for bringing me up. Super excited to see what all things were happening at Google I/O yesterday, and thanks for sharing that really cool demo of you. First of all, because we don't have access to a lot of those capabilities here in India because I think it was only launched in the US, and more importantly, I think it's a bit too expensive for me to play around with, but it seems very nice, at least not just from the LLM's capability, but also in general, if you look at all of the different kind of products that they have released and how they have also now really just added the AI capabilities to the Android XR classes, I'm really excited for those, especially.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, again, I just started playing around with it a little bit. I will spend some more time, see if I can come up with some cool videos, but it has been pretty impressive just from the playing around with it, the little bit that I have, just probably the last half hour before this stream, which was one of the reasons I was a little bit late starting today, just because I was so engrossed in playing around with the new tools and seeing what I could do with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, could you give the audience, the people that are listening, just a quick intro to what you do, what your role is, and we can kind of go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hey everyone, I'm Shivay. I work at Couchbase. It's a NoSQL database company. Of course, there are a lot of databases out there, and I primarily work on a lot of our generative AI integrations and building demos around all of the different integrations that we have. So, of course, as with most of the databases today, we also added support for being able to use vector search alongside your typical NoSQL database operations. And of course, that means that now you can leverage it within AI agents as well. So primarily, whether you want to use a database for um, either being able to use it for the long term or short term memory, or of course if you want to add semantic capabilities. So very recently we were added as one of the vector databases for the retrieval augmented generation support with Mastra AI. So what I went ahead and did was that very quickly during the time of the Mastra hackathon, I built a sample demo for that. So I wanted to try out using the Mastra workflows, which I really feel provide you a really nice way of being able to use multiple agents. But I know like it's not just like limited to being able to combine the responses from multiple agents, but really also be able to like use it for much more enterprise focused use cases where you might have 4, 5, or 6 agents all trying to work together. So I really appreciate that how the team has really dived deep into ensuring that master workflows become a really popular way of being able to orchestrate multiple agents. So my next step would be to try to build a much more production uh, ready, or like try to tackle a use case which takes more advantage of master workflows, not just like a simple 1 or 2 agent workflow. That would be the next step that I'll be doing. But I really just wanted to chime in here and just say thanks to the overall master community. One of my friends, he just joined Mastra as well, Manthan Gupta. He comes with a lot of agentic background as well. So it's really good to see that
Yeah.
that capability is offered.
Yeah, and you did release a post on dev.to recently as well, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So like for those I know this is a long URL, but you could probably Google it and find it. And why don't we just? It might be cool to just. I can share it too. Why not just take a look at it?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So
So again, this was just me trying to play around with Mastra for the first time, because that is pretty much the first time that I heard that we had very freshly released that particular uh, integration, and then the blog was just a natural progression of just me trying out Mastra workflows. And because I was earlier just trying to build a simple tool call and like like a simple agent and defining the tool and using that. But I felt that because workflows, I know like there are 2 different ways in which you can basically approach the master workflows, right? So one is okay, like you kind of piggyback where you have the first agent and then you add like a second agent which uses the research done or the outcome from the first agent, and you start to basically use it. But there are a lot of other ways in which you could also have like let's say an orchestrator agent, or like let's say if you're building a code review type of agentic application, there you will need to have like um, an agent that will always be able to understand that whether the other agent's work is being done correctly or not. So it's like a supervisor agent that can overlook the work being done by the rest of the agents. So I feel like even their workflows can play a really important role, because that it gives you that kind of a deterministic outcome rather than completely just running fully autonomous agentic workflows. You can add a certain level of determinism to your agents.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's honestly one of the things that people do struggle with, I think, is deciding between, you know, creating an agent or creating a workflow. And honestly, they work well together, but you do have to decide what level of determinism you want. If you can make it a workflow, it's more deterministic typically, and you're typically going to get more consistent results. But I do think that's a challenge for people because I think that a lot of people have the dream they can just give a system prompt to the agent and it's always going to work and always going to do everything exactly the way you tell it to. And unfortunately, with the current state of the models, that doesn't always hold true. However, if you can break parts of it into workflows or even the whole thing into a workflow with just smaller LLM calls, you typically get more results for those things. So a lot of times what I end up doing is I start with an agent, and then when it breaks down, I break pieces of it into workflows, and I give the workflows to the agent. So it's still like doing the routing, but it's calling more deterministic tools throughout the
Exactly.
process.
So yeah, this was pretty much what I did over here, and yeah, I just saw
Yeah.
Vinicious as well. I'm really looking forward to meeting him at the JS Nation, where basically I'm going to be doing a workshop, and the workshop is a bit interesting because I'll be building an AI agent that runs exclusively on the browser. So rather than running something on the server, because we have the capability of being able to use technologies like WebAssembly, WebGL, all of them, and WebGPU. So you can also have LLMs, and LLMs completely running on the browser. I'm not quite sure if Mastra could also be supported to run, because I know that under the hood you still need something like Vercel OpenAI SDK. But I feel like if we are able to probably use some sort of an LLM that can then also run on the browser completely, that is like the next step where you
Yeah.
can also do and handle tool calling directly on the browser. So I'm looking forward to that particular workshop.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it would probably wouldn't work, but I
Yeah.
do know there are people building, Chrome extensions using Mastra and using client tools that interact with the web page, which is pretty cool. So there's more and more, I guess, rich browser functionality that I have seen some of our customers playing around with, but not directly running it
Yeah.
in the browser itself, but more so in like a Chrome extension
Mhm.
that runs alongside the browser.
Yeah. And I think like one of the other experiments that I basically wanted to do was, so of course sometimes the only, I guess, caveat here is that, for example, one of the discussions that I was having with some folks is that, okay, like, so someone if some what if like someone is not going to be using the Vercel AI SDK, and or so if they're not using the Vercel AI SDK, that would mean that if they have an LLM provider that is not currently added to the Vercel AI SDK, it makes it very difficult for them to use the LLM directly, right? So, because we know that there are so many different types of LLM providers, and at the moment, the way that Vercel AI SDK works is that, okay, if it is a completely open source LLM provider, they would directly add it to the AI SDK. But if it is a company, one of the requirements that I've seen, like sometimes Vercel might come up with, is that, for example, they might say that we would want the company who's trying to get the LLM provider added to the AI SDK, that they would want to have like a business deal where the company will have to host their website on Vercel. So like, let's say if there is a scenario where they are not able to add the LLM provider directly, there are actually a couple of hacks, or not necessarily hacks, but one is a hack and one is a route that you can follow. So one hack that I was able to basically do was that, of course, when you're defining your agent, you have to define the LLM. So there you can use like OpenAI GPT-4o. But when it comes to using a tool, so for example, if you don't want to have a text generation LLM, but instead you might want to have an image generation LLM, and you don't want to use one from AISTK, right? So in that case, you could still write the logic of using an external LLM provider and either create the text or generate the image with the help of the tool that you have defined. And then when you go into the research agent and you define a prompt for the researcher agent, you could just tell it that instead of crafting together a response yourself, just take the raw response that you got from the tool call and don't modify that, and just display that to the user. So when you spin up a new Mastra server and you use that particular agent, it would just comply with that instruction, and that would still give you the capability of being able to use an external LLM rather than having to rely on just the ones that are supported from the Vercel AI SDK. So that is like one interesting tidbit that I wanted to share, like as an experiment that I basically found out that actually works well. So I have a demo for that in case anyone is interested. So here, what I was doing was I was using something called as Nebius AI. So they are also like a LLM provider, very similar to Vercel AI SDK. Like I think Vercel AI SDK supports Fireworks, all these different type of LLM providers. But there's another one called as Nebius AI. So they and if you want, I can also share the link here
Yeah.
for the specific prompt that I used. So it is a bit funny because like it's like kind trying to essentially just tell the LLM that don't put anything on your own. So if you go to the source code here, you'll go to the tools first. I guess like we can go to the tool first. So here you'll see that I've used the Nebius AI, the Nebius API key, and I'm just telling it that, hey, go ahead and create a well-crafted blog post around that particular specified topic, right? So in this case, I'm using like the Quen 3 model. So what if now Quen 3 was not supported on the default Vercel AI SDK? So I create the entire blog using that. But then if you go to the writer agent, I tell specifically the agent that don't change my code. So here it says that take the blog content written by the blog writing tool and don't modify the content and just keep it as it is. So that's like one interesting thing that I figured out, that if someone wanted to use their own model but which is not supported from Vercel AI SDK, that's one approach. Now, of course, is it a good approach? No, but there
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're paying twice for the you're
Yeah,
paying you're just as a pass through,
yeah.
but
But the
yes, I
reason
mean, but it is
uh,
possible. I guess
mhm.
we've shown it is possible. I don't know if I would
Exactly.
recommend it.
The other way would be that so my good friend Arindam, who I think like has also spoken with you on Twitter, he's also a great developer. So he actually was able to figure out that. So the idea is that when you use the AI SDK, there is a particular component called as the OpenAI compatible. So there
Yes,
is this
that's what I was
particular
gonna bring up. I was gonna say
exactly.
there is another alternative where you can use,
Yeah,
as long as it's an OpenAI compatible model, of course. But
exactly. Yeah.
a lot of the models are, trying to be OpenAI compatible.
Yeah, so one such example would be, I'm not sure if this would be possible to share here directly, but what I would do is I would quickly just update the GitHub repository as we are speaking, because that gives direct capability to just add your own providers. So now, of course, let's say if OpenAI SDK does not support that particular LLM provider, I've just updated this particular GitHub README. You can probably take a look here.
Oh yeah, I
So,
was just gonna say I'm just gonna pull up the AI SDK docs as well.
oh yeah,
So
sure,
I don't know if this is what you were doing, but yes, if you wanted to use a provider that is OpenAI compatible, that it doesn't provide native support for, you can use something like this.
exactly. And just for the question, like just to basically show like this in action, if you go to my GitHub README, I've just updated the README with a code snippet from Arindam again. So you shout out to him
Yeah,
for being able to actually make that working. So if you bring up
yeah.
that same GitHub repository, there is that particular code which is capable. So yeah, pretty much like replacing the provider and then when it actually comes to using the LLM there, in case of like instead of using the OpenAI GPT-4o, you could just use your own LLM provider, and now couple this with Mastra AI workflow that you have created. So that would be the natural variation that you go ahead and try to create.
Yeah, very cool. Awesome. Well, Shivay, it was great having you join us. I guess anything you want to say about Couchbase or anything else? I guess you're going to be at that, was it the JS Nation conference?
Yeah,
So
so I'll be there, and I'm really looking forward to like being able to build more with Mastra. I think like the next step would be that, yes, of trying to figure out more advanced use cases for workflows. So that was just my first step, trying to build a simple use case of using a researcher agent and a writer agent, and seeing like how Mastra kind of handles workflows. Because if I were to compare like the approach being used by Mastra versus Crew, I feel like Mastra offers a lot more serious capabilities of really putting together well structured workflows, because of the underlying, the, I guess like you're using directed acyclic graph or DAGs for the management, the state management, if I'm not mistaken, or some.
yeah, yeah. So we kind of built our own workflow engine. We
Okay,
originally just were built on top of XState, and then now we kind of built
extent.
our own engine, and then you can now use that engine with different providers like Ingest and a few others that will be coming in the near future. So you can kind of,
Got it.
Cloudflare workers will be ideally something we
Hmm.
support. Temporal, these
Yeah,
are all like, so it can be kind of use our APIs, but then deploy in any workflow engine that you want to deploy your workflows on.
makes sense. Okay. But yeah,
Well,
so next step for me would be to just continue hacking around with the AI workflows with Mastra and try to create more advanced use cases. So hopefully, like if I can build something good, I can reach out to you again and we can show it off
yeah,
more
sure,
and
yeah,
more on Couchbase.
share what you're building. We like to see it, and yeah, we'll definitely talk to us, chat with, and join the Discord if you haven't, of course. And
Yeah,
here's
yeah.
how you can follow Shivay if you are tuning in. So follow Shivay on X. Thanks for joining us, Shivay.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Shay.
All right. And back from Japan. What's up,
What
dude?
up?
Dude, it's been a while. I haven't talked to you for a bit. I think people think you we don't talk anymore or something because they don't
They
see
thought
us.
we broke up or something.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was some probably mentions that we don't get along or something but here we are.
Not
We're
true.
back.
Not true. Dude, I've been up for so long. Like, I left 9 p.m. on the 19th, and it's the 21st now. So it's been a wild day. If anyone followed me on Twitter, you know that I did this journey today to where I'm at right now, which is like in Belgium somewhere. So, what up, everyone?
Yeah, I mean, holding down the fort. Thanks for abandoning me for a while. Holding down the fort,
For good
trying my
reason.
best. And where were you earlier? I was talking through showing off the flow from Google using the Veo 3 model is a bunch of really cool video generation model, but I was sharing the wrong tab. And if you were here, you would have been like, "What are you doing, dumbass? You're sharing the wrong tab."
Oh, I'm
So,
sorry,
so
dude.
I need a co-host to tell me when I'm doing dumb things. But
Yeah.
the chat got me. They saved me. So eventually we
Thank
got
you,
it
chat.
fixed.
Thank you, chat.
Yeah. So we got it fixed. We are, it feels good that you're back though. I feel like we're gonna, really get some we got some cool guests coming today. Obviously
Mhm.
hopefully you'll be a little more consistent now that you're slightly better time zones,
Yeah.
and we can get back at it. Well, we do have another guest.
Let's do it.
I guess I don't know, maybe before we do, maybe if you are just joining us, Abby's back. That's the big news of the day. But on top of that, we talked about some AI news. We did showcase eventually Google Flow, the new Veo 3 model that allows you to build really cool videos. It's kind of the newest, latest drop in video models, I guess. And so if we do have some time, maybe we can play around with that and see if we can build some wild things. And we just talked with Shivay from Couchbase and talked a little bit about some of the stuff he's been playing around with Mastra, some of the workflows and agents that he was testing out. We are going to meet Dero from the Mastra team whenever he is ready. Then, which is the first time he's joined the stream, so that'll be fun. We have Vinicious from Perflab coming on, and then we're going to continue building the MCP server that Daniel and I started yesterday. Ran into a few problems, ran out of time basically, so we're going to finish that today. And that's
nice.
That's the agenda.
That's a full agenda.
Yeah.
Nice. I'm glad I'm here.
So while we wait for Dero, I want to show you this flow thing.
Okay, let's do it.
Yeah, all right. So let's play around with flow a little bit, just because, dude, I had to spend like $150, and that's only for the first month. Then it's $250 if I want to keep this thing. Yeah. So it is doubt I'm going to keep it, but I figured, for the stream, for all of you watching, I had to spend this money to.
So you don't have to.
Yeah, so you don't have to. You can see it. And if you do have things that you want to see it do, please drop notes in the chat, whether you're watching on X, LinkedIn, YouTube. Tell us what you want us to build, and let's try to build a really quick video in the next 3 minutes until Dero's ready.
All 182 of you. Let's figure this out.
Yes. Okay. So I just been doing some weird shit. This cowboy holding a Mastra megaphone.
I love that.
But it's pretty cool. So the first thing is you can create this thing called ingredients.
Nice.
So let's create, what do we want to build? Like, if we can place this image then in a video.
Nice.
So what would be a good prop for a video?
I mean, Well, if it's Dero coming on, he likes hamburgers, but I don't know if we should put that in a video.
Why not? What's kind of style? What style do we want?
Put an In-N-Out burger or something in there. Is that the style? I don't know, but put in like 1950s burger or something. Also, by the way, everyone, if you don't know Dero, he loves burgers, so that's why we're doing that.
Oops. No, I didn't. Apparently messed up. Let's try again. Gotta click the wrong button. All right, generate that. Okay, so this will generate me 4 options, and then we could choose to basically create this as an ingredient. So if we like the option, and I don't know if I don't like ingredient as a name, but we then create an ingredient, which can be used to generate a video, and that video can be added to a scene. All right, something like that.
Sure.
That one. Okay. Let's go with that one. How about that? So now I got to figure out, use this image. So ingredients to video. I don't know. Oh, that was a style. I don't know. So I don't know. Clearly, I have no idea what the heck I'm doing. There we go. So now I can take this image. Is there anything else that we want to add?
Can we take... Okay, this is going to be weird, but can we take Dero's Slack image and also put it in here?
Let me try it. Why not?
Yeah, why not?
Let me see here. I think I have to... Give me a second. I got to download this thing. All right. So let me try this. Oh, that didn't seem to work. Oh, they don't allow dropping. Oh, you can't upload for some reason. So maybe it says soon. You can upload soon. I can't do it yet.
Ah. So you can only generate images?
You can generate images. You can't upload your own yet, it looks like.
Ah, that's kind of lame. Okay.
Yeah, agreed. Well, let's just say like a 1950s car, muscle car.
Yeah.
and then we'll see. We'll show someone in the car eating a burger or something.
Yeah.
I don't know, something to try while we test out this, flow from Google here. All right, so this is working. All right. Ooh, that's nice.
That's nice.
Which one do we want?
Ooh. I like that.
This
that
one?
right there. Yeah. Classic.
Okay. We're going to use this image. Why? There it is. All right. So should we say like a man in the car eating this burger? Something like that?
Yeah. Justin has a good one that we'll do after, which is give the car burger tires.
Oh, yeah. All
Yeah,
right.
we'll do that one after. Also, Justin, I'll just say, man, we are spending $150 on your behalf for that request. I'm just saying.
All right. So this is going to take a little while. So while this is running, why don't we bring in Dero and
Dero in.
and say hello, and then we'll cut the video generation stuff and chat with Dero, or maybe I'll just do it while we're talking, and we'll kind of see if the burger tires thing actually works. All right, Dero, we're having fun. Welcome to the stream,
Dero.
Hi, everyone.
The legend himself.
Hi, Abby. Welcome back from Japan.
Thanks, man.
And I do like burgers. I had one yesterday.
Yep, I know.
There you go. Hey, so did I. So there, burgers are good. All right, for everyone that's just joining us, welcome to AI Agents Hour. We did some news, and one of the biggest news items was Google Flow. So we're testing this out. You'll see us kind of playing around with it. But more importantly, right now we are meeting Dero. So Dero, tell us a little bit. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Everyone, my name is Dero. My full name is Dero Israel, but my friends call me Dero. I work at Mastra as a product engineer, and I'm mostly on the open source operations team. So I'm kind of the Robin to Ward's Batman, and sometimes I'm the Robin to Abby's Batman. So yeah, I just do a lot of open source operations at Mastra. I work on Mastra core, Mastra server, client SDK sometimes, and time to time I try to make improvements to the dev playground. So yeah, pretty much.
He's underselling himself. Dero does everything and anything.
Yeah, he named like 5 things, but there's probably 10 more that he didn't
probably
name.
1,000 things that he does. So.
But yes, you do work very closely with Ward, who, Ward the farmer. We've seen him on here from time to time. Yeah. You work closely with Abby. What's something you've been working on recently?
Recently, I think the biggest thing I worked on recently was introducing the new runtime context into the playground. I think, and I know we have that in the latest release now, and that also helps users to be able to like load dynamic variables at runtime. You can like pass in dynamic variables via the playground, and you can dynamically load agent models, dynamically load agents tools, etc. So it opens like a lot of doors, pretty much. Yeah. And I think, well, today, if you want to like hear what I've been doing, I did today. I've been busy today. So I guess let me see what I did today.
Yeah.
So I know
while you pull that up, let's just take a look at this video quick. See if see how this video turned out. Okay, we'll see if it should get the burger in here, but I'm not seeing it.
He's not eating the burger.
It did not listen. I don't think this one has it either. But there is a person in here. It listened to some of it. All right.
Burger.
No burger.
Guess we have to do the burger tires instead.
Yeah, we're gonna try burger tiger.
That's about to get his wish, dude.
Yeah. Car driving with hamburger tires. I mean, if I were really trying to build something with this, I would probably spend a little bit more time crafting a slightly better prompt. But
Do they charge per execution, or is it just like a monthly thing?
oh, the other thing I realized I need to make sure. Yes. So here's the thing. I wasn't even using the right video. This is
Oh.
so. This is one of my pet peeves. I just remembered this. You have every time you generate, you have to tell it you want to use this VO3. So maybe it would have done better if I used the newest model. But next time I'll have to click the same button again, probably because they don't want me to use it because it's expensive for them. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it charges. I'm assuming it charges me the same amount of credits. Basically, in this plan, I have so many credits that I can use. I don't know exactly how many I have left. That's not clear, but it is. Yeah, we'll see if it does better this time.
Nice. Back to our interview, I guess.
Yes.
Dero, I have a bunch of questions for you, brother, because
Let's go.
I mean, there's 219 people watching, right? A lot of them might be junior devs out there, and you were a junior dev almost a year ago. I wouldn't say you're a junior anymore. How did you come to Mastra, and what do you think was like the thing that made you, I guess, successful? Because you're still here.
Okay.
And
Well,
also, where do you live? Tell the
Yeah.
audience where you're from.
okay. Yeah, I live in Nigeria. I live in Ibadan. It's a city in Nigeria. It's closer to a village more than a city. So I kind of live in like a urbanized village, quote unquote. So it's a pretty interesting place. It's a very calm place. Yeah, Ibadan is interesting. You should come to Ibadan sometime, Abby.
I'll be
Yeah.
there eventually.
Yeah, but for my software engineering career, I've not been doing this for very long. Like I think I have about 4 or 5 years experience now. When I joined Mastra about a year ago, I was like way junior, I was way junior on the level, and what I think the reason why I've been able to like grow the past year has just been like being pretty much because of the people I've been around, like Abby, and I've been around a lot of senior engineers and Mastra, and I just learn a lot from them, like day in day out. And I think I'm a workhorse, so I'm always like learning. I'm always looking at stuff that I don't know. Like if I feel like I don't know something, I'm going to look at it like fall asleep. So I guess that's one reason. So I'm always trying to get better. I'm always trying to learn pretty much. Yeah. And I've learned quite a bit of things so far.
Good.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely, dude. Yeah, workhorse is yeah, I would agree. You do a ton at Mastra, so definitely appreciate everything that you do. This thing still didn't look like it worked.
Uh-oh. No
Are
burger tires.
No burger tires. I must be prompting it wrong. I don't know. I mean, it's pulling in the car. It is not pulling in the burger though.
Interesting.
Let's just see if it's just using the burger. Car driving with Hamburger tires. Just out of curiosity. All right. Back to the real important stuff.
Refund.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So far, I have to say, Google Flow, I'm not that impressed yet. You know, maybe my prompting is not very good. I'm giving very short prompts. If I was more specific, maybe I get some better results. I haven't had a lot of time to really dig into it yet. So it's very possible that it's me, you know. But
yeah, but we're prompting like normal people would, right? If we're gonna say that we're us.
I do think they're selling it as like a filmmaking power tool though. So I do think it's one of those things that if you spend the time with it and you learn its tips and tricks, because I think if you look at some of the videos on the Google Flow, I don't know if that's actually what it's called. It's just called Flow by Google, by DeepMind. I don't know. But if you look at how they're positioning it, there are some really cool videos, but it's more for almost like filmmakers to either like add scenes to, you know, films or movies, or like create unique creations from it. So I think it's meant to be more of a power tool, not a, you know, I don't think the average person, besides playing around with it like I am, is going to use it long term. So we'll see.
Back to the interview.
Yeah, back to the interview. We bounce around a lot here. Clearly, everyone who's watching, we're just having fun.
Dero, when I was in Japan, I got
Yeah.
I got this question a lot from I guess junior dev types, right?
Okay.
They were asking me, what does it take for a junior dev to be successful in a team? Especially like, for example, I was meeting this guy. He was like, I'm very junior, and I don't know how to be successful on this new company I just joined. And I didn't have any good advice. I haven't been a junior for a long time, and neither are you. You're not a junior anymore, so you just kind of like graduated, right? Like, what are some like keys to success there?
So one thing that I think that was very important for me. That was very key for me because for a while I was bouncing all over the place. I was trying to learn as much as possible. But I think one key thing is like to prioritize like what you need to learn and things that you need to do. So like I feel like priorities are very important. So you really like learn what matters. You'll be looking at the thing that actually matters, and you would learn what matters. Because at the end of the day, you can't learn everything. Like I think like everybody has like niches. Even in Mastra, everybody's working on like a particular thing. You're like an expert at like you won't be able to like know every single thing, right? But you know a bit of everything. But like there are still things that you need to focus on. So I guess like prioritize like what's important. Like if you have a task, break it down and solve like what is important right now, and like the other stuff will take care of itself, I guess. Yeah,
That's
what
good
I can
advice.
say. Yeah.
One thing that you do really well, Dero, is you say I don't know, which
Yeah.
I think is a very good skill that every junior developer should do. Because if you truly don't know, then you should just be honest about it, right? Like, because no one will ever fault you for not knowing. Most people fault you for pretending you know something and failing to do it, right? But I think something you always have done great, especially with us, I guess earning our respect is we always say, like, hey, Dare, like, why is this happening like that? And you're like, I don't know, but I'm gonna find out. And we're like, okay, cool, yeah, let us know what it's about. Right?
The I will find out or I will track it down attitude is probably one of the keys to success of juniors that I've worked with.
Yeah,
and just being willing to ask the questions and ask, if you don't have to necessarily even have to figure it out yourself. It's knowing who to ask and then learning a bit of getting the context, learning a bit what they have in their head. And then the next time you'll know how to answer it.
Yeah, because I guess like the solution is what matters, not like how I'm going to solve it or how I solve it. So it's the solution that matters. So if someone is helping me to solve the problem, like it's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do we get this time on the video?
Not much. It's burgers that are in a car by the looks of it. Or burgers that are cars.
In-and-out car? Oh.
So that was car driving with Hamburger tires.
The burger car.
It's oh, someone else from Nigeria saying hello, Dero. Hey, Dero.
Hey, Adebayo. Let's connect on Twitter or Discord.
Yeah, follow my man Dero on Twitter, y'all.
Yeah, what's your Twitter, Dero? Drop it in the chat and I'll display it on the screen. Let's get you at least a couple follows for the people that are watching this and they're already on Twitter. They can just go ahead and follow you.
This is a really good point from Justin. I'll just post it on the screen here. Talk early, talk often. Struggle is a part of learning sometimes, but your team is there for a reason. Dude, a lot of people don't even have teams, right? So that's like a struggle in general. So, and honestly, like in the Valley, Silicon one, a lot of companies don't hire junior developers, because it's like more of a risk or whatever. But usually you hire people with talent, and like talent is what guides you, and Dero obviously has a lot of talent, and he asks really good questions, and always tries to find out the answers and stuff. So I think that's actually a big lesson to y'all trying to break into SV companies, or even you're a junior dev, you're trying to get into something better. Like it's like work ethic. This man here has crazy work ethic, and he never thinks that he has everything figured out, and he's always learning, which is much appreciated, because it also humbles us. Like, we've been doing this a long time, and sometimes when we look at Dero work, we're like, oh shit, I need to work harder. I think I must have got lazy or something in my old age or whatever,
You're not worker, Abby. You're the hardest worker in Mastra for sure.
Well, I think we're going to give up on this video experiment. It is
no burgers.
No burgers. Unfortunately,
a nothing burger.
This is a nothing burger. Flo, I'm a little disappointed so far. If someone else has access, tell me what we're doing wrong, because I feel like this should work. Again, I probably didn't select the right model, because I have to do that every time. So we will try one more time, just for the heck of it. But I'm overall not too impressed over what, some of the other stuff I've seen with Sora and other things. I think it's kind of built like a video editor more so than just a video generator, which is kind of neat. But yes, Justin, I demand a refund. All right. Anything else that we should chat with Dero while we have him?
I guess Dara, leave us with the one last statement, whatever you want to say.
I guess I would say AI is legit. I remember in 2023, I was like doing AI hackathons, but like it was very back then. It was like not as powerful as it is right now, and like now you can just like you can build a lot of things with AI, like a lot of cool things. And even like this demo that Shane is trying to do with this video thing, it's very. I feel like if it works, it looks like it's not working very well, but if it works, it's going to be very useful. Like you can just generate like content on the fly. I had like this idea of like me being able to write a story and just generate a video for like an explainer video from that story. Like so explainer videos on the fly. So like it's something that I can probably do right now with AI. So like it's legit. I guess that's my last word.
Dude, well said. Dude.
And use Mastra.
Yeah, well that's
Yeah.
So earlier this week on Monday I demoed the storybook creator. I wonder if I could use that, create a bunch of frames, put that into this studio, and actually have like a mini movie with different scenes. I think that if you start stitching these tools together in unique ways, I do think that AI is going to, a lot of people are like, well, it's going to upset artists and video creators, but I actually think it's going to spawn a whole new genre of people that are actually going to be able to build things that they couldn't have built before, right? So it is kind of, I think in some ways, it's a little expensive now, of course, but the prices will come down, but it kind of democratizes. It's a lot cheaper to pay, if you think about it, $250 a month is still a lot cheaper than having an entire video production crew of people and hiring actors and doing these things. So as a creator, it does kind of really open the doors to a lot of things. If it works,
if it works
right now, as you see.
So people still have jobs for a little bit longer though.
Yeah, I think it'll give, if you're a creative person, I think it'll, you'll have a job for a long time because you can use the tools and stitch them together in unique ways. All right, Dero. Well, thanks for joining us today. Sure. And we'll have you back on for sure, dude.
Yeah. Thanks for being a beast.
See you.
See you, man.
Stay beastly.
See you.
All right, dude. Well, we're playing around with some videos. For those of you that are just joining us. Cool. What's that?
That's a cool car, at least.
Yeah, we're doing some cool, cinematic views of this car.
We can make Fast and the Furious with this. We can just recreate Fast and the Furious.
Yeah, let's try this. Let's do something fun because I think it'd be cool. Let's prompt ingredients to video. Let's add this car as an car crashes and explodes. Very simple. Let's see if it can do it. if I was, there'd be a car crash and an explosion in Fast and the Furious, right?
Totally. There'd be like 1,000 of them too.
Yeah.
And everyone would survive.
Yep. I mean, yeah, we'll see. Let's see what it does. And we are going to have another guest join us here shortly. And while we're letting this generate, I will just double check and make sure that they're going to be joining. All right. The invite has been sent. And then we'll also, we do have Daniel joining us a little later too. He's going to help keep building on the MCP. I didn't know you're going to be here, so it's not as much fun doing this stuff by myself. So I like to
apologize for not
invite a
being
friend.
I was actually like passed the fuck out. And swear jar.
Swear jar.
Then I woke up and I was like, what time is it?
I am going to get a soundboard so we can like have jingles every time there's a I've been finding myself filling the void. I've been swearing more because you're not here.
Oh, to fill my void of swearing.
Yes.
Oh, nice. Let me just fucking do this right now.
Very, very out of character for me, but I felt like there was a void missing from this show when you weren't here. So for those of you watching, unfortunately, we're somewhat family friendly, but not really. So please excuse the profanities, occasional profanities.
Yeah.
Vinicious, you haven't gotten the invite yet. I believe I sent your calendar invite, but check your email maybe. I'll shoot you an email with the invite. Check the calendar invite. There should be a link in there, but I'll also shoot you an email and we'll get you on.
In the meantime, I guess I'll talk a little bit about Japan and shit.
Yeah.
So I was in Japan 2 days ago, but to me it was yesterday because I literally left 9 p.m. on what day is it? Wednesday? I left 9 p.m. on Tuesday. Tuesday? Dude, I don't even know when I left actually. I forget now. But it was like 14-hour flight. And then I woke up. It was like 5 a.m. today. It was like May 21st, I think. And then it took me like 6 hours or so to figure out how to get from where I was to where I am now. And like, it's just been wild, dude. Like
what? So I obviously have been telling people that you're in Japan, but what were you doing in Japan? Why did you go? And
yeah. So, so why did we go to Japan? It turns out that most of our traffic, or a lot of our traffic, our secondary traffic source from Mastra, aside from the US, is Japan. And it almost seemed like unreal. Like, why? Is it bots or anything? No, it's very much like real people. So we went out there to meet them and see. The main thing is to realize, or to find out, why is this traffic source real? What is their liking of Mastra? Why do they like us? And everything in between. And then we met a bunch of people. And because they liked us and made more meetings happen, and then more meetings and more meetings. And I think I did a good job of showing every step in my Twitter timeline. So if you want to go take a look at the journey, please go and see that. But we met a bunch of cool people and learned a lot about why Japanese people like Mastra, and it's pretty cool. So, and then after Japan, I was already supposed to come to Belgium and Finland and all these places to be with the Mastras during the summer. So this Japan trip has actually just happened before that, and then now I'm here in Belgium. So
awesome. Yeah, and you're going to be traveling a few other places, I think, right?
Yeah, I'm going to see Marvin in Strasbourg.
Marvin was on this week.
Which is, yeah. And then, Marvin was on, which is hilarious, by the way. That was my first live stream that I watched as a viewer, not being involved at all, which was so funny and fun. And then I'm just going to see him. We're trying to get Greg to come out too. And then I hit up Vlad. Maybe maybe I have to fly somewhere to Germany or something. But there are a bunch of Mastra fans in Germany as well. So maybe Berlin just needs to happen.
Yeah, we did have someone reach out wanting to be an ambassador in Berlin. So we don't,
Yep.
for those of you that are watching, we don't really have a formal ambassador program, but we have been getting requests. So if that's something you are interested in, I don't know what we're going to do about it yet, but if we keep hearing about it, we're going to have to do something. So please let us know. You can DM me on Twitter if you are on X. Find me, DM me, let me know if that's something you'd be interested in helping with, whether it's throwing meetups or events or whatever. We're trying to ultimately we want to support the community however we can.
Yep.
All right, let's look at this video and then let's bring on our guest.
Yep.
All right, moment of truth. Did we get something usable here?
Let's see.
Oh, all right.
Oh, it just spontaneously combusted.
And then it got better.
It's like a transformer. It just like
Like,
recreated itself.
but I'm gonna fix it. Got it. All right.
Oh, dude, that's so Fast and the Furious right there. That is
Yeah.
totally Fast and Furious.
I mean, yeah, of course I could cut out the last part, I could make it, and then cut to a different scene, I'm sure. Cut to this scene where it's...
I think it heard us say that they always survive at the end.
Yeah, so here, let's just try one thing. How do I delete things? That's the question. Can I delete? No. No. It's not really. I need arrange. There we go. Let's get rid of some things. Done. Let's go back. Let's add this one to the scene. And then let's cut this right there. All right, let's just see.
Oh, I'm excited for this. Some Michael Bay shit right here. Oh!
I mean, it's not perfect, but
well, it's like Michael somewhat Bay.
We don't get paid for our video skills.
It's Michael East Bay.
All right. Well, that was fun. Let's bring on our guest. For those of you that are just joining us, we do this every day, usually around noon Pacific time is when we typically do this. But I think on Friday we might do it a little earlier because I will not be able to attend the whole time. So maybe we'll do it earlier, Abby, to fit your time zone a bit better. And then, but for the most part, Monday through Friday, noon Pacific time, we talk about things happening in AI. We talk about building AI agents. We bring on guests from people that are doing interesting things in AI. And that is how I would describe this next guest. So let's bring on Vinicious.
There he is.
Hello, hello.
Welcome back.
Glad to be back. Hello.
Yes. So for those of you who have been watching, you probably saw him last week talking during the Mastra hackathon, the Mastra.build hackathon, showing off a little bit about what he was working on, what he was building. It was so cool. We decided we should see more of it, and maybe he can kind of lift the veil a little bit on how he built it with Mastra. So if you of course, hopefully sign up and try out the product, or at least get on the wait list, I think. Is it a wait list right now?
There's a wait list. Yeah, I'm going to be letting people in the next couple of weeks. I'm just rounding off some details.
Okay. So yeah, get on his wait list. Of course, we'll tell you how to do that. But ultimately, you might want to learn how to build similar types of things or use AI to build products similar to what he built. In large part, at least part of it was built during the hackathon. So maybe that's where we should start. What did you build? What are you working on? Because it's called Perflab, right?
Yeah. So it's the actual product is the Perf agent, but it's part of Perflab, which is a product that I started building out like by myself because I'm a software engineer for many years, and one of my passions is performance for as long as I can remember, and working at different companies. I've worked at Klon, I've worked at Spotify for a number of years. It's always been a common theme on how performance as a vertical is a difficult one for people to understand, and dev tools in general also can be very intimidating for people, even some experienced people, because for if you're an expert, what you see is information, but for people that are not, it might be perceived as noise because it can be overwhelming. So I decided then to have my own go at this, building a dev tool. So the first iteration was Perflab as I started building it, but I then decided that I ended up building kind of a dashboard. I forked Google Chrome DevTools and extracted the performance tab and built a standalone component and to extract insights out of traces. But then I decided to take a different approach because I felt like building with agents in mind, it frees you to experiment with interfaces a lot more because you're not as much bound to a static interface trying to accommodate for different experiences and with buttons and static things. So I leaned a lot on generative UI and agents to build an experience that felt a lot simpler and welcoming as well. So you can have like progressive exposition to information. The agents can build a relationship with the user where it can nudge the user as an expert would, and nudge the developer into being a knowledge assistant, and also nudge the developer into finding attributions for their problems and ultimately solving the problems, or generating reports and giving information about what could be wrong. So utilizing the same kind of concepts from what I've learned on source code on DevTools, and extracting the AI parts of it. So for the agent, what I ended up doing is I extracted the source from DevTools, the trace engine, and also the AI parts of DevTools, and generated a standardized library, JS library, to be like the main driver or engine in that case to feed information from the trace into the agents.
Very cool. Yeah, maybe people would want to see it. I know you showed it a little bit last time. I wonder if we can take a look at it, because I think once, if you're watching this and you have questions on how it works, ask in the chat. And again, whether you're on YouTube, X, LinkedIn, just leave a comment. We can see it. We can pop up things like this from Justin. This one's dedicated to you, Abby. Do you enjoy traveling, or is it just necessary for work?
I do love traveling, and I think that's a lot of the reason Mastra is Mastra. So yeah.
Let me share the whole screen, I think, because then I'm gonna also be sharing the code, and that would be easier to manage.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So yeah, I mean, so let's first, I guess it would be even better. So let's show you. So if I go to X, where is my keyboard? There you go. Why am I not being able to type? That's interesting. Okay. So if you go to X, and if you're like trying to find out performance issues, right, within your application and things like that. So let's say you're going through some performance bottlenecks and whatnot. So normally what you would do is record a trace. So this is pretty standard if you're trying to find out problems. So you record a trace and you click around and you try to find, problems or different things that you could want to fix. So you could clicking around and gather information. And once you collect that information on the trace, you're going to have this, right? So Google has built quite a lot of things within the Chrome DevTools, and that's one of the things that I really appreciate. Okay, I did not get any good trace information. Let's get something. So I'm gonna go to Volvo. It's one of my favorite websites to dig around. So let's take a look. I'm gonna clean this.
So essentially what you're doing is you're just basically starting a trace. You're doing some things on the website. It's collecting data as you're clicking around, and then you're going to use that trace in your tool.
Exactly. So let's go to Volvo and do the same. I'm gonna.
And is it possible to do a Command plus, Control plus, give us a little bit more zoom?
Of course, yes. So let's do this here.
There we go. That'll be.
So let's do the same here. I'll click around and start collecting information about interactions on this page. I'm focusing a bit more on interactions. It's one of the things that's like very difficult to understand. Load performance is also very difficult. Interactions feels like it's also very tricky. So let's take a look at this. Let's see if we have more metrics to work on. And one of the challenges that I remember some people asking about, or at least mentioning, is trace files can be huge. So trace files are sometimes you're going to see like it can be like hundreds of megabytes large, like so feeding this kind of information into models and agents can be quite difficult. So okay, so we have like a 900 milliseconds LCP. I have some throttling going on, so that's quite nice. So let's take a look. So normally what you can do after you record a trace, you can save and you can also share after you save. So you can do like things like sharing with others through Trace Cafe or any other kind of trace sharing tool. So np vivo. Let's save this. And now I'm going to load this up here. So it's 186 megabytes worth of trace. So let's see how this will handle. So one of the problems around traces is just the sheer size of it. I haven't tried to load this kind of large trace before, so let's see how the agent will handle the memory of this. At least most of the things are done client side, and let's see, it's waiting.
It's
almost 200 megabytes, so
Yeah.
it's one of the things.
It's going to take a bit.
All right, no suggestions so far, but we are on the ball. Okay, there you go.
Can you give us a few clicks of zoom here too?
Yes. So right out the gate, one of the things that the agent would do is analyze the trace, and it will offer you suggestions, right? So one of the reasons why it was hanging is because most of the things I'm doing is on worker threads and on clients to digest the trace information into more digestible bits for the agents to handle. So there is a little bit of pausing and some insights that I got from the Chrome source code that I can share as well on how to manage tokens and this kind of stuff when it comes to handling large, information, JSON information more specifically, which is what this is 180 plus megabytes, 177 here within Perflab. So what I do is right as I receive the trace is also analyze some core web vitals. So we have, 0 and 0 on cumulative layout shift, CLS, and LCP for largest contains full pane, but we have almost a second on INP, which is considered poor. So with that information, I can also show like this is kind of like this little panel here is kind of like the most minimalistic, dev tool piece I assembled just in order to give you some like overview on what the agent is seeing from the trace. So I have a histogram here when it comes to timeline, and I have some hiccups on activity. So this is showing from a metric called animation frame. So within those, I can see that I have some very long frames here, intervals on these kind of sections of the timeline, which is most likely where I started clicking around. So based on what the agent sees, it will give you already suggestions on what can you do to improve things. So let's say what's causing the high input delay for NP on this trace, how can I reduce processing time? So it's mostly related to NP because as you can see, the metrics are 0. So let's see what the agent says. So the agent has, so I'm for the agent in its entirety, what I'm doing is I started mimicking how mixture of experts work. So what the agent felt like doing right now, based on my career, is doing some research based on what I asked, because I will show more about how the agent makes this kind of decisions, but it becomes a matter of trying to in a way exploit the attention mechanism of LLMs and build layers of sentiment analysis and classification, and also like trying to function at the same time as a classification model function as well as a router that you would have within Mr. of Experts model, but built with different large and smaller LLMs. So the smaller LLMs can do a lot of processing and heavy lifting when it comes to routing and analysis and classification. And the large LLMs are used for generating insights and reports because they can manage a much larger context window. But in essential, like in its essence, what you're doing is trying to lean more into the attention mechanism and prompt the LLM. So you prime the LLM with a chain of thought prompt, and you give it different kinds of information in order to help you route things for complex cases. So this is basically what's happening here. So the LLM, the agent, and the router in this case, the routing agent, thought that because the question was broad, I didn't specify anything about what I'm handing to the agent. It's then decided to, instead of one-shot it or running an analysis, just went for research immediately. So it built a plan for the research. So here has all the reasoning that the research that it was building. So what kind of queries it was going to build and why, and also what kind of analysis it would run based on the results that it would get back. So then it, search the web for different queries based on trusted domains that I wanted to find relevant material. So it's not just like broad searching the broad web, but more in relation to like web.dev, the Chrome dev, the Chrome blog, and dev web the web dev as well. I forgot the website. They were never the developer Chrome. Yes. So I also, of course, have the Bugbear, other good, reliable informations for as a source, and ran the analysis. So this is kind of like a TLDR of everything that happened, both from search results and analysis that the agent did, and of course the report itself. So this is more like a knowledge assistant part. But then I can come here to the agent and say, can you analyze my trace and give me insights on the INP score? So now it will, go into my trace and actually analyze it. So what it's doing here is, I can show more of the internals, but what it's doing here is the trace file is like a collection of events, telemetry data, basically. And what it's doing is it's running through the Google Chrome internals, extracted into a standard JavaScript library. It's running through that engine and extracting a digest information of that trace. And that is very powerful because what it allows me to do is to get that specific key moments within the trace. And then from that, I can then, extract information out of the trace with more precision instead of having to navigate it in its entirety. So what it's doing now is trying to analyze that trace information. So it did not necessarily succeed on this one. I guess it's just because of how much information it has. Let's see if we can try again. Can you try again?
This is cool, but let's look at some code.
Yeah. Whilst it's doing its thing, we can look at some code. But I do have a fallback one that I can run that it's more successful. But at the code here level, let me bump up this text.
I'll do it like 5 more times.
Like this?
Yeah, perfect.
All right. Always one more time more than you're comfortable.
Yeah.
That's what I tell everyone. One more time more than you think is absolutely necessary.
No worries. Well, yes, no worries. So, I mean, where most of the magic happens is the route here.
So we did have a question, from Justin. So he was kind of curious about the front end. So can you tell a little bit more about how you built the front end interactions? Because it's a pretty rich experience.
Yeah.
So maybe quickly answer that. And then, of course, I do want to see the Mastra code as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So the front end interactions are built with Next.js, Shoutcn, I guess is nothing too like unorthodox. Can you, whilst we discuss, this is going to be running, help me with my INP score. So let's see. There you go. So this is built with ChatCN and Next.js. So basically what I was trying to do is, an interface that at the same time it feels simple, but it can become powerful as needed. So that's why the generative UI. It gives you freedom to process information and show information as required. So the thing is on how, like, what I was trying to answer is like, how do I build something that is powerful without being overwhelming? So that's the the key question I was asking myself when building this. So the process itself is actually, I utilized Visio as such a sort of sketchpad. So the power of Visio is quick iteration, and that I think is quite understated and underestimated, because a lot of people think that Visio is for non-coders to push stuff, that they would not be able to otherwise, and that's great. It's a very democratizing, great use case for Visio, and I think it's amazing that people that would never launch anything on their own now can. But for developers, is a great way to have quick iterations of how they would build things. So one thing that really helps is because again, how LLMs work is always going to generate kind of similar stuff that you were trained to. But if you have a vision in mind and you have experience with building UI, what you want to do is you go to something like Colors. And I have the whole palette that I was researching for the interface, and one of the things that this can do is export tailwind color weights. So you can generate your primary, secondary, tertiary, etc. colors, and you feed that into Visio, and you be more descriptive. Give it sketches of what you want to do, and it can become like your AI powered UI sketchpad, and from that you just quickly iterate over the experience. And that's how I prototype most of the UI. Once I was happy with it, then I brought most of the code into here, and of course cleaned up a lot, and built more modular, etc. But you don't have, I already had a good solid starting point to build a good experience. So when it comes to the brains of the operation, the router is kind of where a lot of the magic happens. So the router is built with HANA, nothing too special. But then the steps that I take here with the router is analyzing the incoming request, and I have a small assistant that will then run for me. I have the router in between before that. So the router assistant. So I actually better open the prompts. So the router itself, it works with just basic, trying to treat the request with how the routes should be treated within an expert model. Or at least like I'm doing a lot of sentiment analysis. So I'm just basically, using chain of thought to prime the LLM to behave like a router based on certain key things that I'm looking into the request and what I wanted to run for me. Again, trying to build within that mixture of experts kind of emulation, because the mixture of experts, how it works is that it trying to seek what experts to run based on activation levels. So this is kind of priming through chain of thought, that kind of thing. So building a chain of thought prompt that will give me autonomy, give the agent autonomy to choose between what it needs to run. So this is very powerful, because then you don't necessarily have to rely on an LLM and tools, and instead you can build a network of agents, and you can use an LLM at the beginning of it to route through based on how you want to assemble the outcome, and you use chain of thoughts to help exploit the attention mechanism for your own benefit. So this is how the initial part of the magic happens, because I have flows that can be a little bit uncertain, because I deal with the certainty levels differently, because I can, based on certainty levels, I can prompt back to the user for clarification if they want to provide a trace, if the router feels like it should go for the trace, the Chrome virus inside, and then I will ask, okay, do you have the trace? Do you know how to record a trace? Because I can say like how it can give me information of like, oh, if you want, I can teach you how to record a trace, etc. like that. So this is why I teach about certainty levels. And then this I have a series of grounding information for the model when it comes to priming the model to, again, because the models are very generalistic in nature, right? Like, so the models will always try to answer anything about anything. So then in the grounding for the models, I'll for the different agents, I have different snippets of grounding, but mostly it's just trying to prime the model on, okay, this is what you're trying to achieve. This is the information I want you to focus on, and the usual forget about the rest of your training. Only answer questions about this kind of stuff. So it primes the model on narrowing down, and the next best thing you can do, of course, is making more specialized models, either by training your own or by going to services and running optimization layers. So when it comes to the router, this is as simple as it gets. It's very simple, but yet very powerful, because the router agent is using Gemini, the Flash. So I have the model, the model provider that is basically I can run on local mode if I want to, because then I can run on Olama. So I can do Llama or Quen or whatever. But basically, the basic idea is that I have the full model, which is a larger model, and topics or small model that can be for small analysis and routing. So the router is based on Flash.
Did you use a smaller model for routing, and then like the task execution is like, maybe let's say a bigger model?
Yeah, it depends on what kinds of task I'm trying to execute. If I require an agent or a model, then I can run either a smaller or a larger one. It depends. If I'm trying to generate a lot of information or process a lot of information, I will use a larger model. But if it's not a larger, like a larger context window, because Gemini Flash context window is still pretty insanely large for most tasks. So, and it's incredibly fast.
Yeah. Look, you built your own kind of like network agent system, much like us, right? And the routing agent here is essentially going through an eval in terms of what it's doing. How do you know that the job is done?
How do I know that the job is done? So once the router, I get the output from the router, I will, I have a small agent on the waiting. So if I have uncertainty, I can ask for clarity.
Yeah.
Then otherwise, I will go through one of my workflows. So either the reading trace information, or basically I have two workflows. So it's either a research workflow or trace information, or then if there was no workflow needed, like the agent would just one shot the question based on grounding information that I gave and stuff like that. So basically, if I need a workflow, so let's go for the tracing workflow, for instance.
So just to break it down, there's 4 potential outcomes when a prompt comes in. Outcome number 1, there's too much uncertainty, so you use a small model to essentially ask for more clarification. Outcome number 2 and 3 are, it's enough certainty where that it should call one of these more well-defined workflows, right? And it calls out to a Mastra workflow, it runs it, and when it's done, then it's done. Or option 4, the fourth option is, it wasn't trying to run a specific workflow, but you have maybe a question, and so you use a larger model to then formulate an answer to that question and then respond back to the user. Is that right?
So it will use the grounding that I give it, because within the grounding I already have like a wealth of information about the topics I want to answer. So you get there and do a one shot. So for workflow wise, I mean, the workflow is pretty extensive amount of code, but because it's a complex, several steps, but the basis of the workflow is right here. So you have, I will try to on this particular workflow. What I will have is I will, based on the the query and the history on within the chat, I will extract a topic. So it's Chrome Web Vitals. So it's one of 3. So it's that I have trained it is LCP, CLS, and INP. So those are Web Vitals metrics. From that, then I'll extract the insights out of the data. So I'll have before, like when I send the request to the server, it already will be pre-processed. As I said, I have worker threads and stuff like that to extract the information out of, because I'm not sending 180 megabytes to the server to be treated. So I'll extract snippets of information and pre-process and pre-format it and send it. So then I will extract the information out of that, the data, the raw data that I got. Then I'll extract, you will use that information to generate a report and then analyze the trace at the final step and give back the full report. So those are the steps that you see. So if I ask it, can you run it again? This is where you see each part of the UI being updated according to those steps. So, it picks the INP topic, generating the report based on the topic, and then it will start streaming the report as an artifact. So it's streaming the report, it generated the full first part of the report, and now it's analyzing the trace events, and it will start streaming the trace events part of the report soon.
How do you prevent infinite loops though? Like, let's say we're misbehaving and everything just keeps routing to the same workflow again and again and again.
The workflows, they always have a natural termination. So I don't because of how it's not closed loop, is more of like a sequence of events always. So that's how I avoid the whole thing.
So it terminates at the end of the decision. Yeah,
at the end of the decision, it will choose either will run a workflow, the workflow will run to completion and generate an artifact, or it will one shot something. So because then I'm not trying to be fully autonomous yet.
Yes.
So then the user can prompt more, because normally what happens is at the end of the report, I have, for instance, suggestions for improvements. And in here, I have a little snippet just as like some form of insight. And then the agent will give you like, okay, what would you like to do? You want to generate research based on topics and stuff like that. So it will prompt for the next step. It's not trying to be fully autonomous yet. So there is no problem or a closed loop and trying to do the same thing over again. But how I would suggest is if you have something that you're building fully autonomous, you go back to the router, right? Because then you can have, to a router. It doesn't have to be to the same router, but you go back to a router where you make a decision to either, continue on the loop or bail out, and because you already generated artifacts that you needed, or you have an outcome that you desired. It's always with the kind of same like chain of thought router step. If you need to make a decision on either parallelize the workflow or generate more workflows or stuff like that, you always have a little router in between.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get into this like trap where if you do go back to the router and you do not have the original task at hand and you only have like a subset of the information, that router will not say that it's done, right? It'll then go back to the same workflow and try to do it again. And then that's why closing the loop is very important, but also having the context of every step that was taken before the router gets it again to then assess like, is this done? And so I don't know. I don't believe that a small model is good enough to assess if something is truly done, given 12 steps that happened before with complex JSON outputs.
So I don't think you need to analyze the JSON. So, because I didn't try to do full autonomous, I'm purely speculating. But the thing is,
I'm not speculating, but continue.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Because so I'm actually, let me share you some bit of insight. So there is, one of the problems you worry about, like take it, is context window. Is that the main problem, right? Like maybe. So what you need is you would not treat the entire artifact as part of the decision making, because at the end of each workflow, I generate an artifact, but I also generate just basic response for as part of the workflow. So if I want to treat decision making based on that, the artifact is streamed independently. So within each step of the workflow, I have the data stream, right? Because I'm always responding back to the interface with progress information or artifact data. So the text delta is the artifact being streamed, but also I can generate different types of data, as in progress tracking. This is how I inform to the UI what's going on. But what you can do, because you're already generating artifacts through the stream, you don't really have to these can be treated separately, or you can just as if you want to parallelize, and you're generating the artifact and you also want to you want to stream to the client and you also want to save it. You can treat it similarly, where you push the artifact processing to storage or whatever as a separate process. You push it to a queue or whatever. But at the end of the workflow, what you can do is generate a return statement with either just small tidbits of information to actually be added to the context. So let's say you ran this kind of workflow. I mean, within the workflows here, you can watch for events, right? So you can also do that and start aggregating within the context window. But one of the key insights that I actually got to manage context window and token generation from the Chrome team within the Chrome Web Dev tools is that instead of using JSON, instead of passing JSON directly, what you can do is generate YAML-like input, because that actually saves like 30% of tokens that you would otherwise do with JSON. Because the problem with JSON is that it's too verbose and it can grow in hierarchy. So what you can do is you process that JSON into a flattened YAML-like structure, and actually becomes a lot cleaner to handle and a lot less tokens. So you optimize the context window quite significantly. Because one of the challenges that the Chrome team has within Chrome Dev Tools is that some of the models that they use embedded within Chrome, they're very small. So the context window is very, very is a limitation. But out of limitation comes innovation. So that is one of the key insights that I actually got. Let me see if I can share from the trace assistant prompt. So this is how gives you a little bit of information. This is taking quite almost ipsis literis from the Chrome source on how they handle more specifically trace information into this kind of like flattened, compact, optimized token, optimized for token input output. Is that because how the JSON would look like is something egregiously long, and then they compact that into this kind of like YAML-like structure. So then you can build, you can build a chain of thoughts prompt to handle this information and find information out of very complex data structures. So this is how it would look like in a flattened. And this actually optimizes quite significantly.
This is dope because there's a structure, right? There's a structure that represents the summary of what's happened.
Exactly.
And there's things that exist that are so open to interpretation, right? Like that are not analytical at all, like prose or anything like that. So
and then based on the data structure, it's a much flattened data structure, but because it is still keeping the references and hierarchies, it will still generate a very good attribution model. So then you do a chain of thought prompt, and you will get a lot better insights. So one of the things that I'm also trying to do is attributing based on common relevant information that you would find inside of trace information to build try to nudge the model to make a bit more direct references to some things whenever I see, this kind of asset string. I know it's coming from Next, so I can try to optimize. That's how, for instance, in this particular trace, it got here and said potential bottlenecks or repetitive recursive calls, DOM manipulation. There is a repetitive, and there is a repeated call from these two that's coming from Next.js framework. So it probably looks like a lot of DOM manipulations are happening. So we can build better, better output, because it will catch on those repetitions. It will catch on those attributions and give you a much more pinpoint detail based on the trace.
Yeah. Cool. Well, we do we do have more guests, another guest to get on. But before we wrap this thing up, I do have one question that I was more curiosity. I think I know the answer, but maybe others are thinking the same thing. So as you decided how to architect this, right? You have one router model that then passes and directly calls workflows or directly calls other models. Did you consider trying, and maybe you did, or maybe you haven't yet, just having the router model be an agent with tools and call those workflows through tools and call to another agent through a tool call?
I did, yeah.
And
I considered that.
And then what was the reasoning for not going that route? Because I think and the reason I ask is because I think a lot of people are struggling with how do they pass messages between these systems, and workflows and agents are meant to be composable, right? You can piece these things together, but deciding when and how to construct it, I think is a challenge that a lot of people face.
So I would say, first of all, just try things out first, because if you can build for less complexity, it will always be better outcome. The best code you can write is the one you don't have to write, right? Like, so the less amount of code you write, the better it is. The nature of the thing I'm building is just complex, so there was a proper thought on the things, but at first I just went for tool calling. Because tool calling is all you need, isn't that what people keep saying?
That's what they want. That's what everyone wants.
It's not really.
That's what everyone wants it to be true, but as you realized, and I expected this answer, I think a lot of people realize it doesn't. I mean, for certain things it can work great, but it does break down.
Yeah, like the weather report example can only take you so far. But the thing is, try it out first, and if that's enough, fantastic. The thing is, for certain things it won't. So wherever it happens to not be, that's where I start to branch. And I think, like, if you need workflows, if you will need workflows, you of course don't have to go for the full router approach that I built, because what I want out of that is to plan for a true, like, I was already very invested on Mixture of Experts, so I was biased towards that kind of architecture. That's why I wanted to mimic it. But the thing is, so I built for complexity because I knew that I wanted to build different agents for topics, and that I wanted to build upon, because the whole thing of analyzing trace is that there is a lot of different data points, and with that I wanted to narrow down the context window for handling massive amount of data based on data points that I wanted to build. So it was a very specific problem, right? I have a large amount of data that I want to process, and that data I can narrow down to different topics. And that's why I built for, a router model on top, and, workflows with specialized agents branching out.
Yeah.
So the reason why I didn't build the router with tool calling, it's because of I wanted heuristics in between. I did not want the closed loop. So I wanted to grab the router information, and because there is the uncertainty aspect, right? Like, I wanted a better feedback loop and more control, because if you build with tool calling, you're yielding control to the LLM, right? You're saying, I trust you, bro. You got this. But the thing is that for me, because I wanted to build the heuristics in between and get more control on how I would trigger the flow, when I would trigger certain flows, and why, it gives me a lot more flexibility that way. So it's a much shallower layer in front, so I can use a much smaller model and a much shallower layer in front, and then build based on that a lot more powerful outcomes with heuristics in between.
Very
Yeah.
cool, because it's very pragmatic, like the way that you like gone about the whole solution. Oftentimes we meet people who are, oh, the tool call is not working. I must be like Mastra must suck or something, you know. But that's never the case, really.
Yeah.
No, it's I picked it. I mean, I picked Master for a reason. I tried a lot of frameworks in between. I tried because I'm actually using Master and SDK SDK because I started building with AI SDK first and to calling, right? Just to calling. I actually gave a feedback when they were starting to plan the V5, and I was like, you guys need to get on workflows. It's like you absolutely 100% need support workflows because I felt it's so capped by not having workflows, and that's why I started looking into different frameworks. And I landed on Master because it felt like the TypeScript support, Zod support, everything was just fitting just the way I it was preferring. And it just, I don't regret it a minute because then it has the right flexibility for what I want and the right amount of power.
Cool.
Thanks,
Well,
dude.
yeah, that's about. Let's clip that testimonial. So thank you
Clip
for
that
the
one.
kind words. I definitely appreciate it. Okay, how do people? You said you had a wait list. You have a really cool performance tool. You're starting to let people in. Where do people go if they want to sign up for the wait list? Well, all right. So I will.
Yeah, I
pull that.
shared on the
Yep,
chat.
Yep. And so I'll share that. Before I share that, you can also, you're on X. So
Yeah.
follow Vinicious on X.
Yeah.
And
I have a
if
sneaking
you have
suspicion you'll be back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm always happy to come back because I'm going to continue building this. I'm going to actually end up open sourcing it as well. I'm building on top of open source. I'm building on top of Google Chrome, and I saw someone mentioning Paul, but me and Paul, we actually chat a lot about this stuff, so he already knows about it.
Nice.
yeah, well, yeah.
So I'll be pushing a lot of this stuff that I've been building is on top of Google Chrome source code. So there is no secret sauce per se. So there is so it's just on. Now I'm starting because the core concepts of this is built on. I feel like a lot of people are building agents for automation, but there's a next level layer of experience you can try to achieve on top of that. And if you reach for that, I feel like you're going to end up building something truly new and great. And one of the things I'm starting to think about is the next step of browsers with that kind of behaviors. So if you have this kind of curiosity, let's hang out and chat on X. I'm going to be on speaking on Jazz Nation about performance this time, not about
Nice.
AI. But yes, let's hang out.
Yeah. All right. Well, Vinicious, good to have you on again.
Thanks,
yeah.
man.
We will definitely have you on again in the future just to share updates and progress.
Yeah.
But
happy
appreciate
to.
it.
Yeah.
See ya.
Please, man.
Peace.
All right. That was pretty.
Dude, that guy is so cool.
Yeah. So if you are just tuning in, you don't know, maybe you came in halfway through that, you should go back to the video and watch from the beginning, because I think it was a very, as you said, Abi, very pragmatic approach for how you architect an AI application. So the amount of knowledge that was just dropped in the last, I don't know, half hour or so
Very fast.
is, if you are just getting started building an AI application, or you're running up against the walls of what you think is possible with agents, and you're just thinking, I can't get good quality results out of this, go back, look at how, he did try using tools, and then he graduated from tools to building a router agent and kind of architecting his own system, right? It's not always going to be as easy as just, I know people want, and the dream is you write a few lines of code and then everything just works magically, and you craft just the right system prompt and your agent just makes all the decisions for you. But then, Abi, as you brought up, there's this chance of, well, what if it just keeps running or doesn't know it's finished? What if it doesn't call the tools correctly? So he's much more descriptive about, these are how these workflows are called, mixing different models and even different providers in there. I mean, you can also see just by the sheer size of the system prompts he showed, or the prompts that are used, it was very meticulous, right? It's not magic. It's software engineering, as we always say.
Yep.
And so I would encourage anyone who just watched this, who's interested in learning how to build more advanced AI applications, go back, watch this whole segment. You can see he shows the code. You know, it's not magic. It is meticulous
Hard work.
craftsmanship. This is craftsmanship.
Yeah.
So
Also, we should have listened to our own advice and maybe like prompted better for the Veo stuff. Like,
yeah. I mean, we were just playing around.
But we were expecting it to work the same way, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. We just expect it all just to work, but yes, there's still a craftsmanship involved, which is why software engineering is not going away. It's just changing, right?
Yeah.
100%. All right. Well, we do have another guest, so
let's do it.
Daniel, where art thou? We'll see if Daniel comes on. But before that, make sure whether you're watching this on X, LinkedIn, YouTube, give us a like, a comment. We see all the comments. If you have questions, please ask along the way. Make sure you're following me on X, smthomas3. It's down there in the corner. Make sure you're following Abi.
Thanks, sir.
And
all
that
295 of you.
Yeah, so we got a whole bunch of people watching right now. That's great. We have one more segment. And Daniel and I started something yesterday, and we did not finish it. Let's see if we can finish it today. Daniel, what's up?
Yo, I cannot follow that guy up, so I'm just gonna throw that all out there right now.
Damn, Daniel.
This is gonna be a completely different vibe.
Yeah, we're switching up the vibe. We're going from here's how you go the advanced use case to how do we just build a really simple, stupid MCP server? But hey, that's what we do around here. You know, we mix it up and we have fun. So
yeah.
Let's
and now there's 305 people in here because Daniel showed up. So
yeah, once they saw Daniel,
the aura brought 10 more in.
Yeah, for those of you joining, we're gonna pick up on a project we started yesterday where we were using Mastra to try to build a very simple MCP server. And the goal of this MCP server is very simple. We want it to be able to go out to YouTube, find the latest Mastra AI Agents Hour live videos, and just give it to your tools, whether it's Claude Desktop or Cursor or wherever else you might install an MCP server, and also be able to tell you if something's live. I did find a little wrinkle, Daniel, that we might have to try to solve for today. If there's a scheduled video, it's labeled as upcoming. We need to see how does that show up in our JSON that we get back. So a few different things, but let's take a look at where we left off. And I believe we didn't have the playground working in displaying MCP servers. So that was the problem. I didn't touch it since then, even though I said I was going to try to work on it. I didn't. Sorry all. But because of that,
life gets in the way.
Because of that, we get to do it together. So let me share my screen and let's build some stuff.
So from what I remember, it was likely a versioning thing. So you might have to like nuke your node modules and do like a fresh install with the alpha packages.
Yes, I think that's what we kind of ran into is, let me go back. Abi, what's the best way? I just want to install all the alphas. It's the best way, simplest way with NPM.
Put every name and the alpha.
NPM I.
And then
yeah, I think kind of what you had before.
If I just put alpha, it wasn't installing though, unfortunately.
But maybe if you try to get rid of your lock file and your node modules and just do a fresh install.
All right. You think that'll work?
I think so.
Let's do it. All right. So let's get rid of node modules. We'll delete. We're going to
maybe your lock file too, just in case.
Okay. So if I run npm I, we think this is going to work?
Hope so. Put $5 on it in the swear jar.
Hey, yesterday, by the way, we did have a social everyone drink. It worked on the first try. Something.
Oh, it did?
One of the few things we did. So very rare occurrence.
Yeah, the first iteration. The
first iteration worked where when it basically we vibe coded it to go out, scrape the YouTube page, get get all the videos, and it returned it in JSON format. Just first try. So if
Yeah, dude, nothing ever works the first try. That
I
was
know.
crazy.
I know. So let me go ahead and
Well, now that we said this is not going to work. But
no way, that never works. But let's let's go ahead and look here. So if we go here, it basically would go to this live page. We'll look through the code of how this actually works, but it should pull up and it should be able to tell us that this one's live, right? So that's the goal of this MCP tool.
Sweet.
Let's see if we can run dev and see if it shows up and we can test it. All right, I don't see it, so we might
Not in there.
But let's go ahead and just catch people up on if they didn't watch yesterday. We did build this live stream tool, which will go out, and if it's working, we will see. Uses Puppeteer, so you can see it gives us the active stream, which this is, what's going on right now. This is the link to this video that you're watching if you're on YouTube, and it gives us a link of all the past streams. So it works, but there's obviously we should be seeing MCP servers.
Where's what's your Mastra
yeah.
CLI version?
Yeah, maybe that's a good question. Did I update?
There.
There's always
That'll do it.
no drinks for us. We're gonna stay thirsty, friends.
Technically the tool worked, so at least nothing regressed.
Nothing regressed. Let's delete node modules. We'll delete the package lock again just to make sure. Okay, now moment of truth. Okay, let's run the dev playground. There was maybe a breaking change. We did have a release today, so let's look at the code.
Yep.
Can we remember our own breaking changes? We're about to find out.
Where was the issue? I didn't. Mastra from where am I using?
It was
that,
in the
though?
bundled file. So that it might be something that used to be added automatically, but isn't anymore.
Do I need to specify a logger?
Oh, yes, you do. I remember. I actually read the breaking changes today. I think the reason was because it doesn't work nicely with every provider, specifically Cloudflare. So we need to specify the logger. Here, let me pull up the breaking changes. I'll grab you some code.
Yeah, I'm assuming if I were to start fresh, it would have this, but what is it? Probably like a type or something. I don't know. There's something here.
It's in an import now, but yeah, we'll bring it up. Goddamn Cloudflare.
Yeah, Cloudflare doesn't support Pinot.
Yeah, but maybe the take is Pinot doesn't support Cloudflare.
Maybe. Very, very possible. Yes. So are you all getting me some code, or should I look up the docs?
I'm trying to find it. I thought it would be a lot easier to find it, but
Is that right? New console
but I was
logger?
looking
No.
through our Notion instead of our docs. So
removal right here. So yeah, I'll share some in that chat. So you have to import the logger from Mastra loggers. So we'll need to install a new module. We got our package JSON.
Yeah, I guess I could just do npm install at Mastra
loggers
at alpha. So it's on the same. All right, so we're going to install a logger. That should be good. Now I can import Pinot logger. If I didn't specify, I would kind of expect it to just use the console logger. Is there a way I could tell it to use the console logger?
It's a really good question.
That I guess that would be my expected behavior. So if I go to logger, new Pinot logger, something like that, it's not assignable to type logger.
Oh, it looks like we legit have a bug right now.
Yeah, well, that's why we do it live.
Yeah.
So what do I need to roll back a version?
Well, I'm not sure. I'm gonna double check.
And was adding a new console logger also giving you the same thing? Like, is there a different logger we could try?
I'm only seeing one logger here.
What was the error was that there was no Mastra logger import.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
What's our error now?
The error is it's a type error, that Pinot logger. Which maybe we can ignore it and it'll just work. I don't know.
Wait, were we passing it? Or we were passing it, or?
Yeah, we could always just try to ignore the TypeScript issue.
Yeah, I mean, we can see what happens.
What's the TS ignore for this?
Just do like @TSIgnore. In like a comment, and do it right above the line with the logger.
Let's see. I have very little faith this is going to work. It's trying to. It's
Still looking for Mastra logger.
It's like the @Mastra's loggers, master core logger.
Which seems to be like a type mismatch, right? Because like the CLI is expecting, like the CLI when it starts Mastra, it's expecting a logger. I think we have a bug though, honestly, like straight up.
Yeah.
Maybe we should just not use.
Let's try to go back and see if we can. The problem is there was. If you can find,
it might be in the release now, in the latest release.
Yeah, but I'm imagining we're gonna hit the same thing, right? Alpha is gonna be the same as latest if we went out today. So let's remove node modules. Let's RF. Let's remove package lock, and let's just get it working again, and then let's see if we can just get the MCP server in dev. All right, so npm run dev. So let's pull up the dev playground. Oh. And master MCP. Why is this where? I think this is the right version of master MCP, right?
Yes, sir.
Let me double check.
I'll check here. Which was released, there was 0.10, so there was a 0.5 was 8 days ago. So it should have been Should be, right?
Yep.
Why am I getting this error? Oh, just did I not run? Oh, because I never installed. Well, I do need to do an npm install. That makes sense. For those of you watching, we are live debugging in Air, and we're going to eventually be building an MCP server.
Yeah. Once we figure out the error.
All right, so let's npm run dev. We now, everything's working. Let's just test our tool. This should still go out and get the data. Let's just take a look at what the code is for this tool so we can see how this is actually working. So in here, we're using Puppeteer. Basically, we have a tool that fetches the last 10 live stream YouTube links. In the execute function, we launch Puppeteer. We go to the Mastra YouTube streams page. It then does some, basically just looks at the markdown that's returned, tries to find based on the little live tag, which one's the active. And then all the rest just get added to this list, and we pass in we basically return the active stream if there is one, and then past streams. So that ends up getting us this data. Then here in kind of our main source Mastra index, we are exporting the Mastra class with this MCP server. And I wonder if we go to here, so you can see. All right, so we go to the Swagger UI. You can see that by default, all the agents get endpoints, and also our MCP server gets an endpoint. So in theory, I should be able to use this MCP server that's running locally in something like Claude Desktop, right? That's how this should work. Assuming that, does Claude Desktop support SSE? I believe it does. Let's
It should, yeah.
What's that? It should. Let's try it
Yeah.
out, and let's go ahead and open up Claude. Verifying, open. All right, so we got it opened here. Let's see, how do I add an MCP server? Give me a second. Just looking here on my screen. I'm trying to remember how to add an MCP server in Claude. I know it's possible, but I'm trying to remember how. Maybe it's in settings. Developer. Okay, there it is. All right, so I went to Claude in the menu, went to settings, went under developer. Let's edit this config. And it decided to open Windsurf. Cool, that's fine. We'll use cursor and Windsurf at the same time. Why not? And we can give it an MCP tool. We're going to call this Mastra Livestream. And I think it's like URL. I think that's it. I don't know. And it would be localhost :4111 / we're going to go back to here. It's API servers, server ID, SSE. So let's try this. If I can open up Windsurf. Okay, so API MCP. Now I don't even remember what it is.
I think it was like my MCP server.
Yeah, I believe you're right, but I'm going to pull this up. All right. API So it's not MCP, it's servers. And then I think it's my MCP server, but we're going to check that and then SSE, something like that.
Yeah, I think it was M, like capital M and lowercase CP.
Well, let's figure out how we would look and find that. Let's go to here. I think it's just,
Oh, it's just MCP server.
because it uses this ID, right? Not the name.
So it uses, so you can pass in an ID, or if you just pass it into the Mastra instance, it uses the key
Right here.
that you pass it in.
So we'll just use that. So it's just MCP server. Is it? I don't know if this is actually the right format or not. We're going to find out. Unfortunately, in Claude, I've realized you have to restart. I don't know why. Let's see if it shows up. It does not. Why not? We need to figure out if Claude, how to add an SSC MCP to Claude. I'm sure this would work in Cursor. I could probably just ask in Cursor and it would probably be much easier. I've found that working with MCPs in Windsurf or Cursor is much easier than working with MCPs in Claude Desktop for whatever reason.
Yeah, especially because you could also just tell them to install it themselves.
I'm going to do a quick search here. Just see if I can figure out how to do that.
And are you trying to add it to Cursor right now?
Well, I was just going to add it to see if I could figure out how to add it to Claude Desktop.
Oh, okay.
I can do it in Cursor. Let's just do it in Cursor, and then we'll eventually figure that out. Where do I go for Cursor? Cursor settings.
Yeah, I think MCP.
Add a new global MCP server. And I suppose I would just copy the same thing. Something like that, right?
Yeah, that should work. So if you go back to your Cursor settings, it'll show you if it's connected.
Seems to show that it's connected. So let's test it.
It seems to be struggling a little bit.
Seems like it's not working. Why not?
Might be, kind of looks like a Cursor thing.
Yeah, let's see. It didn't, because you think it'd at least give some kind of error. There we go.
Oh, there you go.
I had to just swap to the model and let it pick. So it called the live stream tool. Hopefully this actually works. We will see. Yes, the current. So it did work. You can see it called the tool. It worked. We built an MCP server that we are now using in Cursor. It was not straightforward, but it did work. We got there. Let me see if I can get it to. Can you give me a list of the last 5 live streams? Mastra live streams. Okay, there it is. So you can see the last 5 live streams we have with the link. So there we go. It worked.
Can you get any, like, is there any metadata around what each of the live streams contains?
So not really, because not with the current way we're doing it. I'm sure if I use the YouTube API, and maybe I'm sure there's an MCP that has tools to get to the YouTube API, but this is the data that I have, right? So I have the name, the link, because it's just, all it's doing is it's going out to this web page and scraping it. If I, went to the maybe I could traverse and go to the individual page and pull the description, if I wanted to.
Mhm.
Or if I use the YouTube API, I could probably actually get a lot more metadata about, whatever the description was from the live stream. One thing,
Yeah, because that would be neat if you can just ask it like, "Hey, I want to learn how to build an MCP server. Is there any video on that?" It looks up, gives you a list of, "Hey, on May 12th, there was like a section on building an MCP server."
yeah. So I mean, if I were to build that, I think I would go a different approach. I would probably want to have some kind of data source that would take the video, give the transcribe it so it had all the data,
Mhm.
and then the MCP server would basically just whether it's like a semantic search or whatever over that data and then return it. So it'd basically be like a little vector query tool in a way.
Mhm.
And so I think if I were outside the scope of this call for sure, but that's how I would probably build that if I wanted to make it a little bit more useful, which I do think, and I would agree is definitely a lot more useful. So maybe that's a future brainstorming session that we can do on stream, is how do we take this outside of just giving us the titles and the links? How would we
Mhm.
actually, every time we do a stream and it's done, how do we process that, get the transcription, store that data, probably, chunk it, store it into vector DB, then do like a search over that vector DB inside an MCP server.
Yeah, I think something like that could be a neat series because, like, while this is like cool, it's not really like real world scenario. Like, you probably wouldn't build an MCP server this way.
Yeah, I mean, you are most likely right, but I would say, well, I'm going to push back. I think there
Okay,
are
okay.
some,
I'm ready for it.
yeah, there are some, like the Mastra Docs MCP server is not that far from doing this, right? And rather than scraping the web, it's just loading markdown files,
Mhm.
and that's the entire MCP server. Um, uh, Elena from Base Case built an MCP server using Mastra for basically her work and her blog, and it has all the data and like companies she's invested in, has data in the types of like blog posts that she has and founders. So it's almost like you're chatting with, using the MCP server, you're chatting with her database of information, but it's not so
Hmm.
much information that you needed, a separate vector DB. You know what I mean? So I
Right,
think
right.
for large amounts of information, then yes, you definitely have to have a much more complex architecture. But even for the size and scale of like the Mastra Docs,
Yeah.
you just don't necessarily need it. So, but
Okay. Yeah,
yeah,
I'll accept
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, but you can definitely get some benefits, I think, if you do want to uh, architect a little bit better than we did in this very simple example.
Mhm.
Anyways, yeah, this has been fun. Thanks for helping build an MCP server, Daniel. We'll get the UI up and running and showcase that at some point in the future, and maybe actually
Mhm.
build out this example a little bit more to be useful, and more so than just what's the active stream, but it's what did this past stream on this date actually talk about, or when did Vinicious, who was just on from Perflab, when did he come on, because he's come on 2 episodes now. It'd be great to be able to know, ask a question and get those 2 episodes as an answer and the links to the actual video. And maybe we could even do, because with transcripts you can have timestamps, like where a timestamp in the video and going to that specific location. So there's a lot of really cool things you could do with all this data that we
Ooh,
have
yeah.
with these live streams, right?
Mhm.
So
I dig it.
for those of you watching, that's going to be a future project. We built a very simple, very rudimentary MCP server. We will build upon it. We'll make it better. And ideally, you'll all hook it up to Claude Desktop or, Cursor. And when you're in the middle of, vibe coding something, you might just say, hey, is there a Mastra live stream going on right now? What are they talking about? Or when did when did Daniel come on the live stream? Because he's my favorite reoccurring cast member from this AI Agents Hour show we're doing.
I'm gonna go shout that from the roof.
Yes. All right. Well, thanks, Daniel. Thanks for jumping on, and we'll have you on again. Obviously, next time we're probably talking about MCP.
All right, sweet. Thanks for having me.
All right, and then there was just me. Abhi jumped off to figure out if we had a bug, if there's something going on, or to figure out what I was doing wrong. And so he's working with some other people from the Mastra team, figuring that out. But we had a great show today. We talked about some AI news. We talked about Google's release of Flow, and we tried to create some videos. We had some luck, although what we learned is you still have to be pretty good at prompting to get good results. And in our examples, I was not. So it took me a little while, but we did get, some kind of video created, and that was kind of fun. We had a guest from Couchbase come on, talk a little bit about what they've been building with Mastra, some workflows and some agents that they've been working on. We met Dero from the Mastra team, talked a little bit about his journey and what he's working on at Mastra. We had Vinicious from Perflab come in and honestly just get very practical about how he went about building the Perflab agent. And so if you're looking for a really kind of in-depth code example of how to build an AI agent with Mastra, or really just in general about how to go, really walked through, especially towards the end, how he thought about solving the problem of making something that's, non-deterministic, a little bit more deterministic and a little bit more reliable. And I think that's important when you're trying to build these AI tools and AI agents. And then we did some live debugging as we're building an MCP server that does something very simple, just gives you the recent Mastra live streams. Thanks for tuning in to AI Agents 2 hours again today. We continue to go longer than an hour, but we have a lot of great guests that want to come on, and we want to get them on. If you know of anybody that wants to or is building something cool in AI, send them my way. My DMs on X are open, so please follow me there or let me know if there's something we're missing, if there's ways you'd want to improve this show. Thank you for the 300 plus people that are watching live.